Namaste, Utsoda.
Namaste, Ajay bhai.
I cannot hear you. You're on mute.
Can you
I'm
hear me
pretty
now?
sure.
Can you hear me now?
Nope. I cannot hear you, Utsoda. So maybe you want to look at that. Let me check at my end if there is a issue with. No, it's. I just can't hear you.
Okay.
So,
Maybe the music in the background is the problem.
sorry, Utsoda. Uh,
Ajay bhai, can you hear me now? I think the background music, when you start the background music, it doesn't let me speak.
okay. All right. How about now?
I
Give it a
hear you.
shot.
Yeah.
It's all good. No, right? Okay, so that I want to thank you once again for joining, and a lot of people are already dialing in. So that this is Hindu Lounge episode number 39. So that we have been doing this now for 39 weeks, and it is a pleasure and a privilege to be doing this. And this is, I think that we are contributing to a meaningful conversation about Hindus in America in this show. This week, first let me just go ahead and introduce you and introduce the show. So this is Hindu Lounge. So that we did not do one thing, and that is we did not post to Facebook and Twitter that this show is going on live. So while we are talking and introducing the topic, if you can just make a quick post on Facebook that this show is now live. Our regular listeners already know it, but a lot of new listeners who are coming in may not realize that this is Hindu Lounge. Hindu Lounge is brought to you by Hindu Pact. And Hindu Pact is actually a policy research and advocacy initiative of World Hindu Council of America, or VHPA. And we come live every Sunday at 11 o'clock Eastern and 8 o'clock Pacific, and corresponding times everywhere. I am joined by, my name is Ajay Shah. I'm the president of VHPA, and I'm joined by Utsav Chakrabarti. And Utsavda is the executive director of Hindu Pact. And so every week we bring about, as I said in the beginning, we try to bring in issues which are really meaningful. We bring in issues that are thought provoking. And I think so that today's issue is the title is very provocative, but it's really not negative. And I'm going to, and as we unfold this show, people who are viewing it, people who are listening it, will get to know this topic a little bit better. So that what we are going to talk about is Hindu Sunday schools. And as you know that Sunday schools is a popular construct, has always been in the West. We had, the Sunday schools were very prevalent in churches, and it just kind of carried over to Hindus in America. We'll go over the history of all of that and all that. But I just want to ask the people who are listening to us, who have joined us, that do not, have preconceived notions about what this particular show is going to be about. Have an open mind, listen to it, and let us have a meaningful discourse, a meaningful discussion, because we will all, as a community, learn something from each other, and at the end of the day, serve the Hindu community better. Utsada, without going into specifics, please, go ahead and introduce the topic. And while you're doing this, I'll see if I can post to multiple places that this show is now live. Go ahead.
Namaskar, everybody. Well, Ajay bhai, the show is live, so I think people can see it on Facebook and everywhere. That
Perfect.
Make sure, but just make sure that people on other WhatsApp groups and all are aware that we started the show. Usually we get
Absolutely.
delayed sometimes, we are trying to get there on time every day, but this time we started on time.
Yeah, we did,
Exactly,
and that
exactly
itself
on
is
time.
a credit that we should take, and uh, And do we have a drum roll for us? We should have some kind of applause for starting on time. I mean, we need to celebrate small wins like starting on time. See, our audience has given us kudos, so we can now start. Go ahead. What's your introductory remark before we actually go into the topic?
Yeah, so I have been, Ajay, I have been relatively new to this country. I've been here for the last 20 years, compared to many of the other people who are part of our shows and who are part of our audience, who have been in America for longer, and many of whom have been born in this country as children of immigrants. So my perspective on the show today and some of the things I would analyze is based on the past 20 years of my interaction with Sunday schools in the Hindu community. And so obviously I would never claim that that's the only experience that is there. It's just going to be my understanding, my analysis of the experience of Sunday school. And I just want to go on record and say that I fully understand that people have lived in this country, been born in this country for last many decades, and they have a different analysis of how these things, how the evolution of Sunday schools in the Hindu community panned out. And obviously, we are very open, and we encourage them to share their perspective on this issue. But we are today going to look at the Hindu Sunday schools from the perspective of content, what is there, what is not there, what could be there, and from the perspective of how they evolved. And I think both Ajay Bhai and myself have an opinion on that. And Ajay Bhai has been in America for far longer than 20 years. So I would, he would have a much bigger spectrum of experiences than I do. So having said that, we can start the conversation today.
Thank you, Utsoda. Utsoda, I want to share my screen because some of these things I don't want to get lost in just talk, and I want people to actually see some of the points that we are trying to make. And Utsoda, in 60s, the Sunday schools got their start. And if you look at the screen, and I hope you can see my slides, and let me know if you cannot. Can you see my slides?
Yes, I see your slides perfectly.
Okay. So that we took a look at, both of us, we took a look at all the Sunday schools, Hindu Sunday schools that are going on in America, not all, but, about a dozen or so different organizations, mandirs, community, family-run schools. We took a look at a broad cross-section of these schools, and we said, and we analyzed the vision, mission, and charter of these Sunday schools. And by and large, so that we came across, these are the kind of mission statements that these are the goals, if you will, that the Sunday schools, Hindu Sunday schools in America have tried to attain. And these are all really admirable goals. For example, so that keep Hindu a Hindu. I mean, if a Hindu doesn't remain Hindu, then all the rest of the things that we are going to talk about is worthless, right? So keep Hindu a Hindu. Learn about Hindu Dharma. Unless you learn about Hindu Dharma, impossible to keep Hindu a Hindu. And so one of the key parts of the mission statement or the charter of these schools is learn about Hindu Dharma. And all of this is really futile unless you build the character of the person. And so character building is a key part of all the Sunday schools, whether it's named as Bal Kendra or whether it's named as Bal something or the other, or Sunday school, Sunday Hindu school, or whatever it's called, right? It is a different, all of them emphasize on character building. And that's really the key to Hindu Dharma, character building. Discover divinity. After all of these things are predicated on someone's drive to discover divinity. And where do these things come from? Our cultural roots. What are the values, the divinity, and on what values are we building the character on? Preserving the tradition, not because the tradition, that because they are traditions, but these traditions have something meaningful to teach us for our lives. And these traditions are going to really make us better human beings. They're going to help us do better spiritual practices. They're going to help us develop our personality better. And these spiritual practices, this personal development, the divinity, discovering of divinity, the character we develop will lead us to have emotional support as we progress in life and as we come across various life situations. We need to have, a lot of times we need the emotional support. And this Bal Vihar, so Bal Kendras, Bal Gokulam, Sunday schools, no matter what they are named, Mandir schools, doesn't matter what they're named. These Hindu Sunday schools provide this emotional support, and they infuse. Their charter says that they seek to infuse spiritual values in daily life. And after all, Hindu Dharma, where we have said that seva paramo dharma, we develop a better, the aim is to develop a volunteer spirit. And this is not at the cost of anyone else, right? Because as the as the faith that proclaimed Ekam Sata Viprabodha Vadanti, as the faith that proclaimed Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the universality is what almost all of these Sunday schools aim to teach. And of course, it gives a sense of belonging to all the kids and all the kids who actually attend this. So that is the mission, and that is the charter and the vision of Hindu Sunday schools. And before I go to the specifics of how they achieve it, what they do, I would like to get your comments on just this positivity that and I don't know if other Sunday schools, I have not studied them carefully, but Utsoda, this kind of positivity can emerge and emanate only out of Hindu Sunday schools, because we are not limiting someone to a single way of worship, a single book, a single tradition, a single spiritual practice, and all of that, right? So this kind of positivity cannot come from anywhere other than Hindu Sunday schools.
Absolutely. So Ajay bhai, as this graphics shows very aptly, the nature of the Hindu Sunday schools, very beautifully represent the nature of the diversity that Hindu Dharma represents in terms of its theology, in terms of its traditions, in terms of its culture, which is a much more superficial expression, and in terms of its ethos. They attempt to represent that diversity, and this is very beautifully put together. Thank you for presenting it so nicely. I would say that that in itself, this kind of positivity in itself brings with it a lot of good things, but only positivity also leaves us with something that is also needed in our society, and that is a realistic and a pragmatic threat perception, and a realistic look at our civilizational position. And
so I don't want to cut you off, but let's just stay with the achievements, and before we transition to the other part of it.
Okay.
So there is a slide coming up.
Yeah. So as I said, this is a perfect bag of positivity that essentially represents the microcosm of Hindu Dharma itself, and this is the best way you can put it.
And so the achievements are awesome. I mean, these Sunday schools have the way they have structured themselves, the way they have structured their activities are really, something to be proud of. And every Hindu who has, as a parent, who has run the Bal Vihars or Bal Gokulams or Bal Kendras or a temple school or whatever it is, any Sunday school, right? They can take a lot of pride in the way they have structured the Hindu Sunday schools. I mean, look at the activities here. So the activities are scripture and Gita classes, pujas, festival celebrations, stories, language learning, yoga, music, you know, and seva, dance, community services, bhajans, Gita studies, games. This is, remember, this is targeted at the kids who are not immersed in a culture which is Hindu culture. And
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think what the Sunday schools do is they very beautifully do a presentation of Hindu culture and a little bit of the Hindu theology in a very friendly manner. And for a community that is, that is most of them is immigrant and that doesn't have a very deep roots in American society that goes back more than 50, 60 years or maybe 80 years. This community, this was the need of the hour, I must say, at least 20, 30 years ago. This was the only way the community could have brought itself together. So this presentation of culture and a little bit of theology in the Sunday schools was very apt, I must say. And it's still very apt. I'm not saying this is not relevant today.
then, so that not just it's not relevant, this is absolutely essential to keep Hindu a Hindu and infuse the Hindu values in the kids.
Correct.
There's this article that came out in Hinduism Today, so that it is from 2004, and it summarizes really nicely what the kids, the ultimate audience, right? The kids, how they feel about Sunday schools. And it says kids love Sunday school. Sunday school, and I just the small quote, and I'll read it because it kind of emphasizes the great work that Hindu parents and the Sunday school teachers have done in creating this institution over last 50, 60 years. Okay, so Sunday school is an American institution. Long ago, immigrants of Western religion faced the challenge of passing their heritage to generation after generation, and they figured out a system which is now the primary mode of religious instruction for millions of American children. The whole country is scheduled around attending church on Sunday. While the parents worship the chapel, the kids attend Sunday school. Hindu parent teachers who launched this program decided to take advantage of this established church model, and it worked. So it worked.
Absolutely.
Hindu kids in the program decided to take advantage of this established church model in Hartford, Connecticut, for example, and the kids kept coming back. They no longer have to wonder what they should do while their school friends are in Sunday schools on Sunday mornings. So from the kids' perspective, so that this was a successful model. And there is an extension to this model, and let me show you the extension to this model. There was the natural succession to the Sunday schools was an organization that made a big impact on college campuses. And so the same Sunday school kids, when they graduated, they went to colleges. And when they went to colleges, there was what happened? So there was a study done by University of Illinois at, I believe at Urbana-Champaign, or Chicago, University of Illinois at Chicago, and the research study credited Hindu Students Council, which I was privileged to be part of, was successful in affirming a spiritual Hindu identity among American youth. Okay, so the mission accomplished, right? Look at this. So let's summarize this. Okay, in a sparsely Hindu populated country, there are very few Hindus in all over America. And so in this sparsely populated country, the Sunday schools gave kids and parents a sense of community. For the Hindu kids, especially the Hindu kids who are from India, because we know that there are a lot of Hindu kids who are not from India, whose parents had grown up differently, in a different culture, and who could not identify with the issues that the kids were facing, it gave them a sense of belonging. Okay, this really, kids have to have someone they can relate to, and those are other Hindu kids, and they cannot find other Hindu kids in the same school. And I know personally the Hindu kids who got bullied in the schools. Okay, and there are studies. I mean, there are studies done as later as last year, where significant number of Hindu kids have said they're still being bullied in the school, even though the population density of Hindu kids has gone up. And many of the kids who are isolated and parents, look at it from parents' perspective. Even the parents needed a place to come together and talk about kids growing up in America. And the Sunday schools give parents an opportunity to congregate and to form a community where they can discuss these issues. Right? This is the really the success of the Sunday school model. So the mission accomplished.
No mission that is civilizational in nature is ever accomplished.
So that let me show you this. The reason I got this quote, Utsoda, is because a lot of times some of the things that we say can be very painful. And so there was this 11th century sage, Parasara Bhattar. Okay, he was a great follower of the Ramanuja tradition in Tamil Nadu. And he had a title of Acharya, and he was giving a discourse. Okay, and at the end of the discourse, Utsoda, some people who had been listening to him criticized him. This is a great Acharya. Remember, this is not some some person talking on HinduLounge. Okay, this is a great Vaishnavite Acharya. And when people criticized him, he took out the ornaments that he was wearing and gave it to the people who criticized him. And people who praised him got nothing. Nothing. Okay. And this made the people, now remember, these are not evolved souls, these are people who are listening to a discourse. And so people who were praising him obviously got puzzled and got angry, and they said, why would you give things to people who are criticizing you? Okay. Why are you not rewarding people who said that they understood and they agreed with you? Instead, you're rewarding these naysayers. You're rewarding these people who are coming from negativity. Why don't you reward positivity? And Parasara Bhattar said, every bhakta has two duties. Okay, two duties. Not one, two. He should always praise Lord Narayan, but run himself down. Why? Because self-criticism is important. Without this, one would become complacent and eventually forget to think of one's deficiency. A devotee must always be conscious of his own smallness and the greatness of the Supreme One. So that is a lesson in this for everyone. Every Hindu, every Bal Vihar kid, every Bal Vihar parent, every Bal Vihar teacher, every organization that is running Bal Vihar. I want to emphasize now what we are going to say from now till the end of this show is not targeted to any particular Bal Vihar, not any particular Bal Kendra, not any particular Bal Gokulam, not any particular Sampradaya, not any particular organization, not any particular temple. Collectively, it is meant for Hindu society. It is not retrospect. It is, some of it is retrospective, but hindsight is always 2020. It is more about what is it that we succeeded in. We already talked about it. What are our challenges? What are we going to learn from it? And how are we going to go forward? And so that there was a trigger for this. So I present you, let me stop the share for just a second, Utsoda. And I want to bring to you the story of Matangi Subramanian. Kalsada, and I am going to actually share the screen and let you introduce Matangi Subramanian and explain her article, and then I will share a few things which I have highlighted. This is an article that came out this week in Harper's Bazaar. Okay. And here is an article that was written by Matangi Subramanian. Utsada, tell us something about Matangi Subramanian and tell us about why we are talking about this article. And then I will walk you through a few lines that I've highlighted, which can facilitate the discussion that we are having today.
So I think many of the viewers might have already seen this article, uh, but this article is very important for the community because it highlights a couple of things. It highlights somebody like Matangi, who has a Hindu name, sounding name, who in this article claims that her father is the founder of one of the oldest Hindu temples in America and who grew up steeped deeply in Hindu practices, as well as by going to one of the Hindu Sunday schools, who acknowledges that they have the family as well as herself grew up fully embracing Hindu identity
In America.
in America. Yet, in this article, she clearly defines herself not only as a non-Hindu, and she renounces her Hindu identity completely, but she also explains why she does it. And she does it using a couple of misinformation, if I can put it politely. I would say by lying as well. The things she does, and you know, she gives her the example of her living with her husband in India as a Fulbright Nehru scholar, which if people are not fully aware of is an exchange program for young professionals and some students between India and America. And usually when these people go to India, they end up in highly toxic environments of what we call the extreme left narrative builders like Jawaharlal Nehru University, St. Xavier's College in Mumbai, or Presidency College in Kolkata. Very well established centers of Hindu hatred that are present, citadels of Hindu hatred that are present in India. So I'm pretty sure she interacted with these people for some time, and while she was in India. But this article is important because it shows very clearly what we could have done differently, or what we can still do differently with the Hindu Sunday schools. And I'm not saying that it's only one aspect of her upbringing, which is the Sunday school, that is responsible for this. I'm pretty sure that plays a very minor role in it. But at the same time, it is important that we understand and deconstruct some of the points that she's bringing up. She lies about her identity. She's actually not an Indian American. Her father is actually a Sri Lankan American, and he was a Hindu refugee. I won't call him refugee because I don't know if he left Sri Lanka when the war was going on already, but he certainly is not Indian Hindu when he immigrated to the United States. He was from Sri Lanka. But this woman, this lady Matangi, continues to lie about that part of her heritage, which is important because she is making a statement about her Indian identity very strongly. Another aspect that she lies about is, and this is something, this actually exposes her in the article. And this shows that she actually has very little understanding of India. And she's pretty much parroting what the extreme left liberal in America parrots about India, often funded by dubious sources. And which is the fact that the current Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, is a Brahminical supremacist. These terms are very good markers, giveaways. You know that it's coming from somebody who doesn't understand India. So, but what she doesn't know, what Matangi doesn't know, is that Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India himself comes from a non-upper caste background, and is therefore her analysis of Prime Minister Narendra Modi is either just a copy paste of somebody who is sitting in some Western academia and hates India and just goes with the narrative, or she's herself very ill-informed despite her staying in India for 6 years. So there are some real factual errors in the article she presents, which she kind of wants to show off as if she is doing it from herself based on her experience, or she's just plain, you know,
So I
disingenuous.
want to let me walk through the article, and that will give our viewers an insight into this. So she
Okay.
said on Sundays we went to a Sunday school where we learned Sanskrit and attended a youth group class, while my father listened to lectures for adults. A few weekends a month we went to temple where we prayed and volunteered. My father at the front desk, the rest of us in the kitchen. Okay. So I've just highlighted a few things. She talks about Brahminical patriarchy and things like that. And then she said, by the time I was a senior in high school, I couldn't wait to leave home and all its accompanying restrictions behind. So she was, even after attending Monday and after attending a Sunday school, by the time she was in high school, a senior in high school, she was ready to leave home and she was ready to leave behind her faith and Hindu Dharma, but she doesn't really do that. She says that, well, for some reason, even though I was ready to leave that in my 20s and my early 30s, I clung to Hinduism with a ferocity that defied logic. And she says that she continued to worship and, things like that, right? And then here is the thing. Now, remember, this is a person, and again, I will not say that this is a representative of all the kids who have ever gone to a Hindu Sunday school, but this is certainly a representation of kids who have, a segment of Hindu kids who have gone to various Sunday schools. The truth is, I didn't love being Hindu, but I loved being Indian American. While I was secure in my American identity, the Indian part was more complicated. I couldn't speak Tamil, my mother tongue, nor did I know how to cook more than a handful of traditional dishes. And then she says, at temple, I knew the words to prayers, I knew the rituals, I knew their meanings, so I kept practicing, even though the older I got, the less I believed. Okay. Now, again, no commentary on any particular whatever it is. It is a general comment on how does a part of introspection is how does a person who grows up in Sunday school write this kind of stuff. So I want to let me continue on this. I before I continue, let me just narrate an example. About 6 months ago, I got an email from someone who had been a teacher in one of the Sunday schools in America, and that teacher's kids also went to this Sunday school, and that teacher wrote and said, "I'm so glad that despite of going to the Sunday school, my kids turned out to be okay." Okay, so it is not just the kids, but it's also the parents who are teachers. When that parent, and there's a context to it, somewhere along the way, that parent was confronted with the essence of Hindu Dharma, which is Hindutva. And as soon as the parent was confronted with the phrase Hindutva, the parent got upset. And instead of understanding, instead of explaining, instead of learning, the parent reached out to us and said, I'm so glad my kids were okay, even after attending a particular Sunday school. Okay. So these are the kind of some of these, there is a need for understanding why this kind of articles get written. Let's continue with what Matangi says. My official break with Hinduism occurred during the adoption hearing that granted my husband and me custody to our daughter. That afternoon, our judge at the family court called us to his chamber and privately confirmed that we were Brahmin. During our 2-hour conversation, the judge told us that he too was Brahmin and that he was pleased that a high caste family like ours was adopting a child like my daughter whose features and history clearly marked her as indigenous and therefore outside the caste system. Okay. And this represents to me the fact that she never learned what is varna, what is jati, what is caste. After all these years that she spent, these are the hard truths and the history of Hindu dharma and how Hindu society has evolved. Just was she was completely oblivious to it to make a statement like this. And that statement caused her to actually break from Hindu dharma.
I
Okay.
think Ajay bhai, I must say something here. I think you are giving too much credit to her sense of honesty when writing this article. As I said, many of the things she's writing here are reverse engineered. Like, she has a list of things that she wants to say about India that fit into the current, anti-India, anti-Hindu narrative list. Check these boxes. Say something bad against Prime Minister Modi, say something bad against casteism. So she has that list that she wants to check off, which is the narrative list. So she weaves a story around that list. And I think I have to say honestly here that the two things that told me that she's not honest about her experiences and her narration is the fact that she absolutely doesn't know anything about Prime Minister Modi and literally copy pastes a paragraph that would appear in you know radical Islamist web pages about Hindus and Prime Minister Modi. And the second thing is the fact that she hides the part that her father is actually not even an Indian. And that is important because her she literally wants to portray this about India. So just even if she had mentioned these things in the passing or had written honestly about these things, I would have taken this article more seriously. But nevertheless, I think the fact that she went to Sunday school, she grew up in Sunday school, grew up going to one of the most popular Hindu temples in America, oldest as well, those are real alarm bells that make us go back and look at some of the issues we are discussing here. But I must say that we have to take the article with a pinch of salt, and we have to take her with some level of we just have to acknowledge that she's a little dishonest and she's checking boxes to please somebody, please
Yeah.
narrate.
There is there's more. Look, take a look at this. This is from a newspaper that is published from California, and this is about a family-run Sunday school. So this is an unaffiliated Sunday school with about 12 families. That this is a very prominent California newspaper. And they did an article. This is about in 2011, 2012. They did an article on Sunday schools. And in that school, they were uh, and actually they admit that this is one of the more these are the group of parents who did not like the traditional Sunday schools that were running in the city where they are from in Southern California, and so they set up their own thing. And they instead of really correcting the misunderstandings, they are actually reinforcing them. And so they're kind of letting people do skits, or they're promoting skits like, well, you're not supposed to allowed to touch someone who touches the shoes and things like that, right? So this is the other side of the Sunday schools that we generally don't end up talking about. Utsada, what is the end result? So Utsada, this is where I think you and I, when we looked at this, we said this is the end result. And please elaborate on this some of these end results. Again, not a criticism, but what are we missing? I already mentioned that a person attending Sunday school wrote to me that I'm glad that my kids are still okay after attending a Sunday school. So that one of the kids who attended uh, a Sunday school that we had run at one time went on and joined a student and youth organization that is leftist. So I'm not going to sit here and judge other people. I'm equally judging myself, and I'm saying, where did we miss? Because if you look at the mission statement, our mission was accomplished. Okay.
Well, Ajay bhai, I mean, one has to say that in an open democratic society like America, the occasional disagreements and this the choice of ideologies is going to vary. We have to give that, and we have to understand and accept it, that just because we cannot expect everybody to be on the same page on every issue and on every socio-political narrative. Having said that, I think we need to really look back and see uh, a comparative, because we are living in a world of comparative sets of information. So if you, to give you a better example of how ideology is presented in America, or for that matter most of the world nowadays, you have competing sets of information coming out, and people choose the one that is the most enduring, that is the most catchy, and the most and perceived to be the most accurate. The word perceived is underlined here. So at some point we have to understand and analyze why a large number of our youth who go to Sunday schools perceive the information and the knowledge and the education that is provided in the Sunday schools to be inferior, less accurate, and probably in some rare cases, but accepting that we see those cases, not actually full of hate against, in terms of comparing it to somebody else. For example, Matangi clearly chooses false information over her education that she received since her childhood. So there must be an alternative source of information that is providing us this false information. And obviously they are doing something better than the Sunday schools to make sure that they are winning over the education and the information that she received at the Sunday school. That is the part we need to understand, analyze, and then, if possible, overcome. And I think that is where this conversation is aimed towards.
Yeah, I want to correct a little typo here. I want to say that we never foresaw the attacks on Hindus and Hindu Dharma based on ignorance, and really attempts at attempts at conversion. We also, so that never really we saw. I'm sorry. Let me take that back. I missed that. We foresaw. We actually did foresee the attacks on Hindu and Hindu Dharma based on ignorance. So we expected that, hey, why do you guys worship cow? And why do you do certain ritual? Why do you do certain practice? Or what, are you going to be born X, Y, and Z in your next life? These are the kinds of things that we had a ready response to. Our kids had a ready response to. We understood Hindu Dharma at its core, and we understood how to explain that. We were ready if someone from another faith came to us and said, "Oh, you convert because you are whatever, whatever, whatever," and we had a ready response to that. We foresaw all that. What we did not see, Utsada, what we did not see is the malicious intent aimed at the roots of the tree that is Hindu Dharma. So we were ready for attacks that came, that for people who saw us as snake charmers and people who saw us as whatever worshippers and all of that, but not when the attacks were aimed at the root of Hindu Dharma, at the essence of being Hindu Dharma. That is what we didn't see. Okay, as a Hindu community. And other thing is, Utsada, we always saw good in others. Okay, we never imagined that an innocuous activity like Sunday school can be targeted, because I did not bring up here but there are a dozen articles and studies that are done to show how these Sunday schools are breeding ground for violent Hindutva. What violent Hindutva? What violent Hindutva? Give me an example of one violent Hindutva example in America or anywhere for that matter. But give me one example in America. We're talking about Sunday schools in America. And if this is a breeding ground for violent form of Hindu nationalism, where is an example of that? Which Hindu has gone off and done anything violent other than to sit at home and recite Bhagavad Gita?
And write WhatsApp messages.
And write WhatsApp messages, of course.
So see, Ajay bhai, you have to understand this. There is a phrase in militaries that they use. Our communities and the Sunday schools that our community runs, with the best of intentions and the best of efforts and the best of initiatives, all these efforts were fighting yesterday's war. The problem is that we are always a step behind in our response, and that's why it's called a response. We are never proactive. So the Sunday schools were always fighting yesterday's information war. Whether you worship monkey or whether you worship elephant, those were 1960s narratives, 1970s narratives. What we missed out is what was coming. And the reason I say we missed that out is because we do not have the ability or the bandwidth, to put it plainly, to look forward and analyze the threats and take them seriously enough to weaponize, to counter the weaponization of those threats by proactively responding to them. And we are always going to be behind on that because we are not a community that takes these things with a civilizational perspective. When you don't do that, you're always going to be responding to yesterday's war because you suddenly realize that the water is above your nose, and we are still doing that. But what you see here is basically our community still giving out narratives that were designed against us in the 1960s and 70s and 80s probably. We have to move forward another 30 years now. Now we have to move forward another 30 years. And not just that, we have to look forward to prepare and design our curriculum, design our Sunday schools. Actually, sad to say this, but actually prepare the teachers and the administrators of those Sunday schools to think like that. That is the biggest challenge.
So let's come to that. In the meantime, I want to invite people who are listening to us to call us and express your views and your opinions. And we want to hear from you. We never claim that we are right. We want to hear what you have to say and have this a discourse here. Tharan Nasimanji, who's our frequent listener and has her own radio show for years and years, has written on the chat with Sudha and said that I was shocked to see a second generation Indian kid and published in Yahoo News. The Hindu culture is at stake with this kind of assumption by the second generation of Hindu youth. And then she goes on to say, her statement and the main reason, she says, a key part of this stance is conflation of Indian and Hindu identity, quoting Narendra Modi is as a reference. Tejal Ben Shah, who is the General Secretary of BHP, says, not only democratic USA, Hindu Dharma itself is more democratic than a democratic. That is where our challenge starts. And Tara Nasimanji responds to this and says that this kind of propaganda is made to highlight and brainwash the young Hindu Americans to move away from being a Hindu. Pretty sad state of affairs. Should we now have identity only as Indian American and not Hindu American? Taraji, I must say that Indian Americans are only about 60-70% and increasingly fewer of total percentage of Hindus in America, because there are Hindus in America from Caribbean, there are Hindus in America who are born, who have no Hindu, no Indian roots. I mean, they may be from Far East, they may be from Middle East, they may be from Europe, they may be from all other countries. I have met a lot of South Americans who enjoy singing Spanish bhajans and Portuguese bhajans in couple of in one of the satsangs that I go to. So Hindu identity is much broader and much more universal than just a geographic Indian identity. Not to say that it does not have the Indian roots, but the identity itself is much broader. And then Tejal ji says that false secularism and not understanding the fine line between left and right. And mission accomplished, she says, long way to go, but that doesn't mean we stop. Matangi case is one individual. Maybe. I think it's a little bit more prevalent than one individual because Utsada, we also did another analysis, and maybe Tejal Ben will find this analysis interesting. So while we go to that, right? I think one of the things. Let me share the screen and get your view on this, Utsoda. This is something that we we need to introspect, right? We are just in introspecting. So as part of our introspection, we think that the Sunday schools have not evolved to meet the external challenges that, and you aptly said that our curriculums are designed for what was 30 years ago. And if you look at mission accomplished, so that I emphatically say that mission statement as written, that mission has been accomplished. But the problem is that our mission statement has not evolved to meet the external challenges that we have seen in last few years, and even more challenges that are coming in next 30 years, as you aptly said, you correctly said. So that absolutely we have not thought about it. We have not emphasized the shared Hindu suffering. So I have a question for you. At what age does a Jewish kid growing up in America first hears the word Holocaust?
I would put it before the age of 5.
Okay. At what age does a Hindu kid growing up in America find out that Hindus lived against foreign aggression and were enslaved for 1,000 years?
Never. Hindu kids don't even know that their ancestors were enslaved for 1,000 years.
So that is a problem.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if again, this is hindsight is 2020, but and I had this discussion during the election campaign when American victimhood narratives were being discussed and during the political run up to the election. The fact that Hindus don't know that their ancestors were actually sold in the streets of Baghdad and Bukhara for, depending on which part of the Indian subcontinent your ancestors are from 400 years to 1,000 years. In that amount of time, they were actually sold as slaves in the streets of Baghdad and Bukhara. The fact that Hindus don't know that, or I think Hindu parents don't know that, or even if they know that, they don't want to talk about it. Last week, I did an event with members of the Bangladeshi Hindu community and the Jewish community in America on the anniversary of Holocaust Remembrance Day, which was last Wednesday, 27th, on the events of genocide, obviously in Europe during the Nazi regime and in Bangladesh during 1971, when around 2.8 million Hindus were killed. 2.8 million Hindus got killed in Bangladesh, what was East Pakistan then. In the previous generation, it hasn't been even more than a generation. And I can assure you, you ask any Hindu kid in these Bal Gokulams or Bal Vihars or Bal Kendras or name them, Sunday schools, broader term. You ask them, they would have never heard of it because their parents have never heard of it. So I think the lack of understanding or of Hindu history this leads to young Hindu kids not knowing where they're coming from. I mean, Hindu kids are going to go to Kingdom Come discussing how somebody didn't drink water from another caste person's hand 500 years ago, without actually realizing that at that same time, both these Hindus were living as slaves and their daughters and their women were being kidnapped and converted in the same time period by some other Islamist or somebody. That
And
is
so
what
that they say, oh, sorry, go ahead, please finish.
that lack of information in our educational efforts, Sunday school efforts, or whatever you want to call them. And again, I'm saying this, that this is not just about Sunday schools. We are discussing that topic today. We could as well discuss this about parents, Hindu parents, or it's basically the information transfer effort that we are providing over the last 50 years. We have to come up with a better way of disseminating information, because we cannot hide our past. Just like we are open, we are always discussing this is what Hindu traditions do. They discuss, charcha is very, very much in the core of Hindu history, in the core of Hindu educational discourse. If we don't talk about it, I mean, then it's a problem.
And also and the same kids who would not go and who would not go and um, go to learn about the sufferings of either Bangladeshi Hindus or Kashmiri Hindus or Pakistani Hindus, the same kids, because they have no sense of Hindu history that they have been taught, would go and march in support of Palestinians on the streets in America. And there's so many articles that have come out about Hindu kids uh, marching on the street, and no commentary on that today. We're not talking Palestine, but that is because they think that Hindus are all, we have taught them pride really well, Hindu pride. And that was the need of the hour, because after you emerge rather from 1,000 years of slavery, you want to instill pride in your community. And we did a great job over the last 50 years. All the Sunday schools, all the Hindu organizations have done a great job in instilling this pride among Hindus. But at some point, because of the middle class or upper middle class existence in US, this pride got translated to privilege, and that privilege gave rise to self-hate. And that self-hate became a driver for all these external forces to kind of capitalize on. And that is where the challenge of our challenge lies, right? So what is the end result?
Well,
Here's our impact on shaping America. Okay? We have
absolutely.
no national or state or county level elected official who is really beyond Hindu in name only. Well, there may be a couple of examples who people who profess, and I can think of some people who have come on our show. So I should say, not no, but very rare, very rare. So if you look at, I can think of, like, say, a few politicians who came, I don't want to name them here, but a few politicians who came to our show in last 6 months. They are notable exceptions. I can count on my fingers in one hand, okay, of these. So no real national, state, county elected official, except for the ones that I can count uh, on my fingers in one hand. No significant judicial appointee who claims to be a Hindu, who came out of the Sunday schools. No career senior government official who claims to have come out of Sunday school. No think tank leader. No leading academician in social sciences. And no significant presence in mainstream civil society organization. Again, not a criticism of any Sunday school, because it was never a part of their mission statement. Hindsight is 2020. We are looking at future. What do we do going forward so that we as Hindus have an impact, a positive impact in shaping tomorrow's America?
Absolutely. And I think, this is not to mention that we don't have people in these places. We do. The problem is that they do not identify as Hindus, or they do not identify with the the issues that are coming being American Hindu. And I mean, you got to, every time I bring up this discussion, I end up looking at only one individual, who is Tulsi Gabbard, who is no more in the Congress, as the only leader of Hindu origin who actually took pride in being a Hindu.
Yeah, and so that again, this is all hindsight. Right? So and it's just excuse me, it's always 2020 because it's hindsight, and we again, no criticism. But also I have two more slides, and I know we're going to run over today a little bit, but there's so much interest in this topic that I think it's worth running over by about 10 minutes on this particular topic today, because I don't want to leave any part unsaid. Because we don't get these opportunities too many times to discuss and to introspect. And this is all about us as American Hindu community. So that let me quickly share a couple of other topics. And they're, again, very consistent with what we have been talking about, right? So, we always say, look, Hindutva is probably one of the most misunderstood terms, because Hindutva is essence of Hindu Dharma. Okay, here's the disconnect with Soda. We teach the kids about significance of holy, about the victory of good over the evil. But did we teach our kids how to counter holy against Hindutva? So that I looked at a lot of curriculum, and the word, and maybe a rare exception in some Sunday schools, but nobody on their website, at least, no Sunday school talks about Hindutva. How is it that a kid who has never heard of a phrase Hindutva supposed to counter it when confronted with holy against Hindutva? And what that does is drive that kid away from anyone who speaks about the essence of Hindu Dharma, the essence of being a Hindu, and lands them right in the laps of those who are anti-Hindu. Okay, this is a problem. What do you think?
I think, Ajay bhai, there is, as I mentioned before, we are fighting yesterday's fights. And you have a Sunday school entry here, right here, standing next to me. And I think this is the fight we have to fight. This is for kids like Maya Durga, my daughter, so that they are not exposed to the propaganda and the hatred that we are targeted with.
Yeah, so that, and I think that, and let's talk a little bit about I don't want to share the slide, but let's talk. People have already looked at it a little bit, but please go ahead and explain the parent-teacher conundrum. That is the slide that you put, and we kind of talked about it. But go ahead and explain the parent-teacher conundrum. And we don't want to vilify the parents here, but what is the parent-teacher conundrum?
Yeah, so I mean, the reason I put this slide in there is because it brings in it brings the conversation to who takes more responsibility, and that's where I think the ball has been dropped somewhere in the middle. I think the parent-teacher conundrum is that, and this is not unique to Hindus. This is there in every community, every society. The parents, who rightfully have to juggle 5 different things, feed the family, do 10 different things actually. They think that Sunday school is taking care of the Hindu values that they want to inculcate in their kids. And, I think it's a very valid thought in their minds. And the parents themselves, because many of them come from India, which, admittedly has a very, very poor locus standi and understanding of its own history. Most parents who come to America from the Indian subcontinent, very few actually know anything about Hindu Dharma. Very few actually, beyond the culture, beyond the,
And that's because we grew up in
Yeah,
Nehruvian
we grew
India,
up in a
where
colonized education.
everyone had a and they
Yeah,
propagated the colonialized mindset, right?
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. They grew up in a colonized education system, a colonized society. On top of that, a layer of socialism, Soviet Union style socialism for more than 50, 60 years of independent India's history. So I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying what is what it is. So they're often ill-equipped and poorly scheduled in their daily lives to offer anything more to their kids in terms of Hindu values, besides very thin layer of cultural practices. Uh, Sunday schools so they send their kids to the Sunday school. Sunday schools are afraid that if they bring up real civilizational issues that are hot button topics today, uh, in terms of Hindu identity, if they bring those things up, they will not be catering to everybody. So they decide to cater to the lowest common denominator of the Hindu community that comes to the Sunday school, which is give them very basic Hindu iconography education, Hindu cultural education, little bit of theology, whatever little most Hindus are comfortable with, uh, without actually going deeper. So what you are seeing here is that the parents are thinking that they're sending their kids to the Sunday schools and the kid is getting what they need from there. And the Sunday school is thinking, well, I'm just going to teach them the ABCs of what it means to be Hindu. Maybe they can spell the word Hindu, and that's about it. Beyond that, it's the parents' job to deal with it, because think of it, every parent is different. Hindus are very, very culturally diverse. Most of them speak different languages. Whenever I used to go to Sunday schools, I could literally count 20 different kids coming from backgrounds with 20 different language being spoken in their families. So we have to understand that, and I'm not blaming anybody, but this is one of the problems that we are facing.
And it's again, it is very different from the problems that we faced 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, or even 10 years ago.
Correct.
So what we are the canary in the coal mine. We are telling the Hindus in America, regardless of their organizational affiliation, regardless of the mandirs they go to, regardless of family Sunday schools that they run, that look, there is a problem that is brewing. There is a problem that is coming up. Please pay attention to it. Please, take a look at this and prepare yourselves for the storm that is on its way. Usada, with that, I close down this topic, and we will do our two final segment, the Hindu Seva Act of the Week, and then after that, the Hindu Phobe of the Week. I played this because I I just thought that I really didn't have a good reason to play this, other than to say that, look, I mean, don't be sad, don't be disappointed, don't be discouraged, don't be disheartened. We are just embarking on a journey of better Hindu, better Hindu identity in America. Tejal been saying play a conch, and Tejal, when I don't have a conch to play, but the closest if someone sends me a recording of a conch, next time I'll play the conch. But this time, the best I can play is maybe a gong. Is that close enough?
Well, I'll ask Maya Durga to play the background music. Maya, go ahead.
Maya is like, well, when can I start the Sunday school?
No, Maya was she's there. She's clapping actually.
Yeah, she's clapping. She likes the music. Okay, let's do one more time for Maya. All right. So the Hindu Seva Act of the Week, and that is something that this time, because I think we kind of I think we talked a lot about the contributions that HinduLounge is making to the community discourse. So what better way to contribute to this particular effort than to go and donate to Hindu Pact? Our website is hindupact.org. And you can go there, click on the donate button, which is right on top, and please donate generously to this particular effort. We we are a non-profit, we are non-partisan, we are a Hindu advocacy initiative of VHPA, of World Hindu Council of America, of Vishwa Hindu Parishad of America, and uh, we want to be your voice, and please support us. I also want to announce here that we have 6 student internship positions available. Please write to us, and we will have a form soon on our website with all the job descriptions. So please write to us. Please reach out to us if you're interested. We are looking for uh, high school students who are either juniors, seniors, or college students. And we will be, I think this is a great opportunity for kids who want to learn about Hindu advocacy in a real practical setting. So please donate to Hindu Dharma. If you're a college student, or if you're a senior or a junior in high school, we do have a internship available. We have 6 internships that we are going to make available. And with that, Utsada, I move on to the next and the final topic of the day, uh, and that, as always, and that requires a drum roll actually. So let me start you off with a drum roll, if I can even see my screen. So let's all right, Utsada. Finally, the Hindu phobe of the week. So tell us about the Hindu phobe of the week, and why have you picked this one?
So the Hindu phobe of the week, as you know, is in
Utsada,
California.
you're on mute.
Oh, I was
No, can't hear you.
okay. For some reason,
So I can't hear you. So I'm going to talk about this while you fix your audio issue, and then you can comment on it. So the Hindu phobe of the week this week is are actually the people who are behind the destruction of Mahatma Gandhi's statue on his death anniversary, or a day before his death anniversary rather, in Davis, California. And you can see the statue has been sawed off from the pedestal, the feet has been cut off, and the statue has been beheaded. And Hindu Pact and VHPA, the Vishwa Hindu Parishad of America, issued this particular tweet where we strongly condemn the toppling of the statue, the destruction of statue, and um, there's a little bit of historic background. An Islamist organization for minorities for India, had actually opposed quite vigorously the putting up of this statue. And when the statue, so I don't know if there is a connection between the two or not, but that is certainly a place where FBI can start investigating as to how and why this statue was brought down. The ironic part, the ironic part of bringing the statue down is that it was brought down on the eve of the Black History Month. Okay. And
correct.
you know the connection between Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi. You know the room in the MLK Museum that is dedicated to Mahatma Gandhi. You know that when Martin Luther King went and visited India, he said, "Other places I go as tourist, but to India I go as a pilgrim."
So Ajay,
Because
can you
he
hear me?
got inspired. So that your volume sound is still a problem, and this is this is the this is the insult, ultimate insult to the Black History Month, to destroy this statue that was built for the person who inspired the empowerment of African Americans in America. Okay, go ahead, Utsada. Let's see if your sound issue is fixed.
So I don't know why.
Nope, Utsada, unfortunately, I think I have lost you. Let me see if I can do
I can
I
hear you
can do
clearly.
anything to address
Ajay
this
bhai,
issue,
I
because
can hear you clearly,
there
and
is no background music is playing, and I don't know if it is just me who cannot hear you, or if anyone else cannot hear you.
yeah, I
But I
mean,
certainly cannot hear you. Oh, Tejal Ben is saying that she can hear you. So please go ahead.
yeah. So I think other people can hear me. I checked on Facebook, so other people can hear me. I think your microphone for some reason is your speaker probably has some issues. So yeah, so the statue, in the past couple of months, actually past couple of years, there has been a very, very concerted effort, not just from Islamist groups in America, but also from what Pakistan sponsored Khalistani groups in America, especially in California, have worked very hard to delegitimize Mahatma Gandhi, and for them or for whoever who did this. We don't know. I'm not claiming anybody did this without actually the FBI coming out with names. But for anybody who did this at the beginning of Black History Month, uh, this is really unfortunate. I would want people in California who are listening to us, I would want Hindus who are listening to this show to write to the lawmakers in California, write to, write to Ro Khanna, uh, write to Vice President, write to the current Vice President of United States, and ask them to, first, number one, make sure that justice is meted out to those who did this act, and number two, to condemn this. I haven't heard any California politician condemn this act, and I have not heard Ro Khanna or any other Indian American lawmakers at the Hill or even state representatives condemn this act. Uh, and obviously, have not heard Vice President, who is of Indian origin, condemn this act. So please write to everybody, remind them that this is the time when they need to show up to the table. If these are the times when they have to talk about this. If they don't, then it just gives more impetus to those people who hate India, hate Hindus, and have done this to the statue of Mahatma Gandhi.
Hey, so that I'm back. I can hear you. See, what happened was I was I pressed the key on my keyboard that turned your sound off, and
I know you are always up to something.
I guess I had okay, I heard Utsada for an hour and 20 minutes, so I guess it's enough or something like that. But no, really, Utsada, I missed it. I'll have to go back and listen to the recording, and I'll have to bring up myself up to speed as to what you said. So I apologize. It was my hand touched the key on the keyboard, which actually turns the sound off, and I kept thinking that what happened here? There's some technical issue, but it was all me, and sorry about that. I know that we tackled a really difficult issue today, and I hope that we did justice to the issue we tackled today. It is by no means easy. It is by no means it's an issue on which we will instantly get consensus from all the Hindus. But if we triggered a thought in the community that we need to bring about a thinking that will sustain us for next 30 years, it has to start with someplace. And this is the place we start. And I thank you very much for doing this discussion and taking this issue head on. So with that, I thank you very much for all those who are listening. This is Hindu Lounge, a weekly show on American Hindu issues. We come live at 11 o'clock Eastern on every Sunday, and we are live on Facebook, we are live on YouTube, live on Twitter, and the recording is always available on all these channels. I am Ajay Shah, and with me is Utsav Chakrabarti, our Executive Director for Hindu Pact. Utsava, what I'll do is I'll play some music and set us off, and then for a couple of minutes, and then we will turn the streaming off. But with that, I wish namaskar to everyone. Thank you again for joining us, and we will see you next week with yet another thought-provoking American Hindu issue.
Namaste, everybody. And I just want to credit all the people who have worked tirelessly over the last 60, 70 years in these Sunday schools. And this program was in no way not crediting them. It is absolutely, I appreciate all the work that was done, and it's still being done every week. So having said that, this was just a critical analysis of what we think needs to be done. Thank you. Namaste. See you next week.
So well put, Utsava. Thank you and namaste, and keep the streaming on for a couple of minutes.